Welcome, everybody, to this episode of the Allied Advisors Podcast, the podcast specifically for manufacturers looking to scale operations and improve productivity. Today, I'm joined by Vincent Nelson. Vincent is the account executive for UNEX Manufacturing. UNEX, I got to know UNEX years ago, back in my automotive days. UNEX makes flow racks, gravity-fed conveyors. We used a ton of their products in our warehouse and our line side production lines for the storage and to really improve the flow of materials into and out of manufacturing processes. So I'm a big fan of UNEX products, been using them for years, and really excited to get to talk to Vincent today and learn a bit more about, the brand, the products, and kind of pick his brain for what he's seeing out in the market. Well, Vince, appreciate you joining me, man.
Morning, Justin. Appreciate you having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Maybe, I did a little bit of an intro for you, but maybe if you don't mind, take a few minutes and tell everybody about your background, how you came to UNEX and what you're doing now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my journey with UNEX really started in 2019 when I did a brief internship at UNEX. I really liked working for the company, and sales position opened up about 4 years ago. So I was doing inside sales for about 3 years prior to assuming the Southeast regional sales position. So packed up my things, moved from Jersey to South Carolina, and started handling the Southeast for UNEX. So all in all, been here around 4.5 years total, put everything together, and been in the sales side of things for 4 of those years.
Okay.
UNEX is just a great company to work for. And like I said, I saw that opportunity, had to jump on it.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And you're fairly new then for the company then. So you've only been with UNEX for like 4 to 5 years. And before that, I guess you were at university.
Correct. Yep. So I'm relatively newer, one of the kind of younger sales guys on the team, and constantly getting in, seeing different applications and making my way around.
I got you, man. How do you like moving south from Jersey? How do you like this 100% humidity we got for you?
Man, I got to tell you, I was underestimating how hot that it would be, but I like it though. I like having a shorter winter and a longer summer. I actually enjoy the warmer weather.
I'm in Ohio a good bit with some clients up there, and I'm often talking to those guys, and they're telling me about, oh, it's hot up here, it's super humid. I'm like, guys, you don't know anything about it. Trust me. Yeah, it's hot. You're right. It is hot. It is not as hot as it is in Charleston, South Carolina. So
Oof,
that's awesome, man.
especially over there.
Yeah, absolutely. But I appreciate you joining me, man. So, maybe tell me a little bit more about UNEX and what you guys do and kind of maybe some of the problems that you help manufacturers to solve.
Yeah, so we specialize in basically smart storage solutions that optimize the warehouse. So anywhere in the supply chain, from retail fulfillment all the way through to manufacturing and everywhere in between. The way that we do that is kind of with our flagship product lines, which are our carton flow. So FIFO, implementing FIFO, and our flow rack structure that we use, and different storage mediums to help store product more efficiently, reduce picking time, and increase productivity.
Yeah, I mean, if the folks out there maybe listening, if you haven't checked out UNEX's website, the one cool thing that I really like about you guys in your website is the configurator, where you can actually go online and build the solution that you need, right? You can build the flow rack, you can put wheels on it, you can set the level height. You can do all of that work right there from your desk, right? So that you kind of really have a really good understanding of what it is that you're getting before you buy it. One of the things that I've seen throughout my career in manufacturing is good and really obviously bad material flow. I remember when I first started with a company that, maybe wasn't as far along in their lean journey, we would deliver parts to the line just on a pallet, drop the pallet off, and then folks would just pick from it. And it was always a cluster. What are some of the worst examples you've seen of part delivery and in your experience, and kind of how did you attack streamlining that, or what advice did you give the customer?
Well, one example of bad, part storage that I saw was I was actually on site with an engineer at a company, and he called it the wooden jungle gym. That's what he would refer to it as, and it was an entire flow rack made of 2x4s
Wow.
and rollers that they had on site, and it was a sketchy situation to say the least. It felt like fall apart at any time, and I was actually scared to get near it. So we really fixed that by replacing that with a much sturdier and robust, our flow cell structure, but just a more robust structure in general on rollers that would actually work, because product was getting hung up in the middle there. So they were having to go in with sticks and touch the material to get it to flow forward. So it was extremely inefficient process, really, aside from the fact that it was dangerous. So by putting products in there that would actually move their product in the way that they needed, so they'd pick a box, the rest of them would move forward, they'd pick the next box, and it was a lot more clean by the time that it was done on the second site visit. So that was kind of one out there application. But I mean, I've seen a ton of different, like you said, sometimes a guy will call a guy, and he'll say, hey, we need you to fill these totes with screws, and they'll come over, they'll bring an entire pallet over of product and just drop a pallet off, and no one knows where that pallet came from, where it needs to go. There's little communication going on, so just that process just isn't streamlined and not organized.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the most common thing that I've seen is it's just, we get parts to the production line. However, we get parts to the production line. There's absolutely no organization. There's no seemingly thought behind it. It's just, give me parts. I need parts. Bring me parts. And that's what they do. And then they can't understand why, they're losing inventory, why they're not productive, why they're inefficient. It just turns into a giant Easter egg hunt where folks are constantly looking for, whatever part they need to finish the build. So yeah, I think, your flow cell solutions definitely provide a medium for organization. But let me ask you this, how many of your customers do you think use tools like a plan for every part or something to define not just where parts go, but how they get delivered, like Kanban quantity, tote size? Is that something that you see a lot, or is that kind of only in manufacturers that are maybe a little bit further along in their lean journey?
Well, I think that, I mean, we work with anybody from, mom and pop, small size company to multi-billion dollar companies. And there's definitely a massive difference all up that scale. And I think that the smaller that you go, the more you can get away with. So if you're in a 5,000 square foot warehouse and you're doing, you're not doing a ton of material, you often see varying tote sizes or, disorganization because, maybe the guy that's been there for a few years, he knows where everything is. So he can just go grab whatever it is. So that's very common to see the smaller the company is, but as they start to scale up and get bigger, it becomes essential that they're more organized. They're implementing Kanban and lean principles and making sure that they have all their ducks in a row, basically. And it is very common, and that's what we work with. That's what we specialize in, and that's really that's ultimately what you're aiming to do is streamline all those processes and make sure that it goes as smoothly as possible. And the larger you get, the more you need to do.
And it's great to hear you say that because, I feel like, I'm a broken record sometimes. I tell people, when you're small and you got all this excess capacity and very little demand, you can afford to be very inefficient, right? You can have Ralph out there searching for parts all day. You're still able to satisfy your customer and meet customer expectations. But as that demand starts to go up and buff up against capacity, it's not scalable. You can't do it anymore. You have to have standardized processes. But the problem is, once you've existed so long in this environment of chaos, it's more difficult then to go back out there and tell Ralph, hey, Ralph, you can't do it this way anymore. You've got to do it in a standardized way. You've got to do it, the way that I'm telling you every time if we're going to be able to be successful here. It's really difficult to do it after you've spent so much time not. So I always tell people, start with an organized process in the beginning. Even if you don't need it, even if you can afford to have all this waste, don't, because it's just harder to turn the ship, right? So let's start on the right foot, right? Start off in a good way. So yeah, I'm really, it doesn't surprise me to hear you say that, but I'm really glad that it's not just me that notices these things. Um, one of the things we talked about kind of in our podcast pre-meeting, giving everybody a glimpse behind the scenes, is, where do you usually see that flow gets hung up in a manufacturing cell? Is it the machines? Is it the people, layout? What do you see that's the main driver of flow issues?
It can be, it's kind of dependent on the specific situation. A lot of times it can be the people. And it comes in my opinion, a lot of times it comes when you're scaling up and you
Mhm.
have people that are used to doing things a certain way. And when you go to change it and you have half of the people want to change the way that they're doing it, and half of them are kind of stuck in the old way because they're so used to it. And I think that a lot of that comes down to the process that you implement. I had one example of, they were on a production line, and it was a sub assembly, and there was one gentleman who was assembling a portion of the part, and when he was done, he'd pass it on to the next woman who would then assemble the next portion. But he felt that she was moving too slowly for how quickly he was moving. So what was he doing? He was holding on to multiple pieces, waiting to assemble them until she was done assembling her part. So I don't know that he realized that he's creating a bottleneck there, because you're holding on to 4 or 5 of these parts. It'd be better to stack them up, give them to the next person so that they can properly address that bottleneck, fix that, and then that way, maybe they need to put 2 employees on the next portion of the assembly so that they can move that product quicker. So I think that a lot of it gets hung up in the actual process itself.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, you want to visualize the problem, right? You want to make it really transparent when there's an issue so that it can be fixed. I mean, I think you're right. I think that's a big issue, that people wanting to hide their problem so that it looks like there's not a problem. Um, when when the best when the best path forward is really to say, "Hey, look, pull the end on. I got a problem here. We need to get in here. We need to fix it, and draw attention to it." Right? I tell people all the time, telling me there's a problem is not a problem, right? I
right,
want you to tell me there's a problem because I want to help you fix it. If we're going to try to hide everything, that's going to be that's where the real issues start, is because you hide it, and then it just festers and gets worse until what could have been solved very quickly now takes a lot more time.
right. I couldn't agree more. And I think that looking at these things, looking at your throughput, trying to see where the bottlenecks are, where are you getting held up. You can't be scared to address those things and fix them. And the sooner that you're willing to look into those types of things, the quicker you're going to be able to fix them and improve your efficiency. And the only way is through.
That's right. Do you think that UNEX products, um, are they, do they give you a leg up in trying to do that at all, or not? Is it more? I guess not. I guess it's probably more on the line layout and your assembly standards more so than anything else.
Right, specifically on the line. I mean, we offer some gravity fed conveyor solutions that can help with that assembly line when you're moving products in that way.
Right.
More so on the flow side of things. So you're talking about workstations, you're talking about implementing first in, first out. If you're storing products on static shelving, that's a separate issue and another bottleneck, another aspect. So if you're having products that are in the middle of a shelf that are never getting touched, you're not rotating your inventory properly. So on that side of things is another aspect where you're getting held up and where Unix help.
But you mean when you say on a static shelf, I in my mind, what I'm thinking of, and you can tell me if we're aligned here, is people have material on like standardized pallet racking, right? So it's just a regular shelf with a wire deck, and there's boxes of material, and they're picking parts off of that shelf, right? So you got to reach in, pull it, 48 inches maybe to get that part off the back. And then do they reach in? Do they even know it's back there? Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Correct. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So when you're trying to grab inventory, and of course that first box is going to be very easy to grab in that 48-inch pallet rack upright, that you're
Hmm.
just keeping it on some wire decking. But when you start to get to that second and third box, it gets to be difficult to access from
Yeah.
one side. You have to either go around or you have to reach really far in, and sometimes it leads to them replenishing before they're even having to replenish because they just can't reach product and they don't want to have to grab it. So you have that old dusty box that's been there for 3 weeks when it really should have been rotating once a week.
Yeah, and it really becomes an ergonomic issue at that point as well, right? I mean, having to reach in and you hope that the item's light, but it might not be, right? I mean, maybe it's a 25, 30 pound item and you're reaching in trying to pull it out. Yeah, I can see where that becomes an ergonomic or a safety concern. So I guess the UNEX flow lanes, being able to bring that item to the point of use for the operator, it adds more value over just FIFO, right? It helps make the work more ergonomically safe.
It does, because if you're reaching in to pick those heavy boxes, you're gonna hurt your lower back, especially on those lower levels. But if you're able to grab them in an ergonomic way where they're always going to be right here, you grab it, the next one feeds in. It's a lot more ergonomic that way, and not to mention how much more efficient it is when someone's able to come and load it separately from the person who's picking it on the other side. You don't have to get all mixed up and walk around and walk 500 feet to go grab one product.
I mean, for mid-market manufacturers, you certainly don't want to have, workers' comp claims due to folks getting injured trying to pull products off the shelf. So, yeah, I could see where that would definitely be a help to have a solid tool like the flow cell or the the in-rack rollers to make that more efficient. Because you guys also, I know you have freestanding flow cell racks, but you also sell in-rack rollers that'll fit inside existing K racks, right? Or
Correct.
existing
Yeah.
pallet.
So one very common application would be having 3 or 4 levels of we call it carton flow. So rollers in pallet racking that allows you to store product in a FIFO manner. And overhead, you would store your pallets, right? So you're grabbing a pallet overhead, you're replenishing the carton flow underneath. You have a complete system there. So yes, the idea is dropping the carton flow into existing racking, retrofitting it to whatever type of racking that it might be, and it's a very efficient application to do it that way.
In my consulting practice, we talk about setting up pick zones, right? And that's essentially what you're doing is we move material from palletized storage down and unpack it or decant it and put it in carton flow so that when my route runners come by or with whoever's picking the material, it's ready for them. It's right there. They can pull it, consume it, and it's ready to go. So they don't waste time, trying to go. 'Cause I have had clients that picked all of their parts out of the pallets, right? So every time they needed a part, they would go to the pallet, bring it down, take however many parts they needed out of that pallet, and then put the pallet back, right? And do all the inventory transactions. And it just creates, number one, it's slow, it's inefficient, and it just leads to an inventory nightmare. All of the inventory transactions required to do that correctly. So yeah, I definitely see the benefit of the system that you're talking about, where you're moving full pallets down from the high rack into these pick zones, transferring the whole pallet, and then the material is ready to go. So yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. You know, one of my own prejudice or bias, you know, I come from automotive manufacturing. Most of my clients are industrial manufacturers. I mean, we do have medical device and some other industries, but predominantly industrial and automotive. So I'm real familiar with the carton flow conveyors, your flow cell. But are there other products that you guys make that don't fit that mold, that are really kind of niche for some other industries?
Yeah, so I would say that one of our underrated products would be Speed Cell. It's a more niche product that is great for small part storage. So think any type of processes that involve making some type of kits, right? So you have 10 pieces that go into this kit before it gets shipped out, or a bunch of little loose parts that are maybe slow movers. So yeah, speed cells basically it's like a hanging shoe bin type of organizer that also would drop into pallet racking. And
Yeah.
it's basically a very dense storage solution for storing products. So you can get up to 260 SKUs in one standard bay. So you think when you're storing totes on wire decking and racking like we were talking about before, you're usually able to get about 60 to 80, I would say, depending on the tote size. But with speed cell, you're getting the entire depth of the rack. It's basically you're basically taking up the full cubic space of that 8 foot by 42-inch area.
I'm actually trying to share. Yeah, there. Yeah, so this is what you're talking about. This is speed cell. Can you see my screen?
Correct. I can. Yep. And it helps a lot to visualize it there. So it's a talking about it in concept without visualizing it. But so yeah, when you look at it there, basically the columns move horizontally, so they move side to side. So
Right.
you have your picker is going to go in there, and they want to grab something all the way from the back of that rack right there. All you need to do is slide those columns over. It takes, it's very easy to do. You slide them over a little bit, you step in shoulders length, and you reach your arm in and you grab whatever you're going to grab in there. It's a really great product for specifically retail, pharmaceutical, and any type of processes that involve making kits. I had a customer that makes kits for the army. They'll have bandages, different medical emergency type pieces, and they would put 10 to 15 products in these boxes, and this is the way that they decided to go. And they saved half the space. Basically, they doubled the amount of available racking that they had, and it allows you to keep more inventory on hand and not have to replenish as often.
Yeah, and I guess, you may have described it this way. I was trying to pull it up while you were talking, so I apologize, but it almost looks like columns of hanging shoe boxes, right? Or
Yep.
or hanging cubbies like you would see, if you remember back to your elementary school days. So yeah, but what I would say, this is probably really limited to lightweight items, right? You couldn't put automotive parts or, heavy items in this type of storage, correct?
Yeah, at the heaviest, you'd be looking at 35 pounds in each of those cubbies. So they are relatively heavy duty. We've had customers store fasteners in them as long as you're keeping them under 35 pounds, and it's not an issue.
Wow, that's actually yeah, that holds more weight than what I would think it would hold. So wow, that is really heavy duty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty sturdy. But it's a great product. If you look, you're getting that full cubic. You're literally taking up as much of that space as you can and using it as storage. So you're not wasting any of the space on those lower levels. And then you're storing pallets overhead in the same way that we were talking about before with the carton flow.
This is awesome. And you know what? I should have pulled this website up when we first started this conversation because obviously you got all of so you guys even do pallet track too.
We do a little bit of pallet flow too. So if you're, 2 or 3 deep with pallets and racking or on the floor, that's another way to be more efficient with your pallets. You grab that pallet product off the pallet, or you just grab the pallet and move it somewhere else.
That's super helpful if you're like on a high volume automotive line and you're dropping off empty packaging to be filled. I could definitely see where that would be useful. And then you've got your solutions. Where's the configurator or build a solution right there?
Yeah, that
So
would be under build the solution. And the configurator is a great tool too. This is just for messing around, building a custom size rack. So yeah, if you click on that flow cell on the right side, you can kind of see it's a 3D. It's a 3D rendering basically, but it just shows you what your rack would look like with all different rollers in it and whatnot.
okay. All right. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, you can definitely see it right there.
Not sure if it loaded on the video here. It might be a different window.
Oh, can you see the 3D rack on my screen?
I don't
Oh, no.
think you
Yep.
can see it.
Yep. Yeah, it brought up a different window. Hold on. There you go. Now we're in business.
There we go.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So you can say put additional bays. So if you want 2 bays, oh wow. Specify the width. That's cool, man.
Yeah, it's a really fun tool to just mess with and see what rack sizes work and what different designs are out there. just from a, you know, tinkering around with it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, good deal, man. I really appreciate you, spending some time with us and walking us through all of these different solutions. Is there anything that I haven't asked you about or we haven't touched on related to component storage or UNEX products that you think we ought to, mention for the folks? I mean, any issues that you see out on the market that you're like, hey man, if I could just tell people one thing to please stop doing, it would be this. Anything like that?
Sure. Oh, well, I mean, we really did touch on a lot of things. I think that one thing is that we have that, that flow cell structure. A lot of times you see that pipe and joint, you're talking about automotive applications. Just keeping in mind the weight that you're putting on them. Flow cell's a good product for storing those heavier duty products. When you're going 2 totes deep on an automotive application or some real heavy totes. So just if pipe and joint, if you're having trouble with pipe and joint, the flow cell is a great alternative to that product.
Yeah, we used to use a lot of pipe and joint at some of my other, other places I've worked in the past. And the issue with it is it just doesn't hold up over time, especially, in automotive where you've got tuggers coming by and equipment moving in and out. It just gets damaged and kind of falls apart. So yeah, UNEX is definitely a more robust solution. That's undeniable. So yeah, good point on that one. Well, man, I really appreciate you carving out the time to come talk with us. I think material flow, material storage, part presentation are definitely critical aspects in manufacturing. They're critical in terms of efficiency. They're critical in terms of ergonomics. So it's good to see that companies like UNEX are putting products out there that really kind of support these efforts and help folks to do it better. So thanks again. Really appreciate it. Obviously, I'm a big fan. So really thanks for taking the time to come on and tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, of course. You're very welcome. And I really appreciate you having me. It was a pleasure.
All right, man. Well, so I guess if people want to connect with you, where can they do that? LinkedIn, is that the best option?
Yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's kind of really where you'd be able to find me. Connect with me on there. I'm always available. You can shoot me a message. And then my email would be vnelson@unex.com. So feel free to shoot me an email as well.
Sounds awesome. We'll include all of that in the show notes. So if anybody's interested in UNEX flow products, reach out to Vincent. I'm sure he'd be happy to come visit or put you in touch with somebody that can come visit and walk you through what they've got and how they might be able to help you deliver parts to your production lines a little bit more efficiently or maybe a little bit safer. So thanks, Vincent. Really appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
You too.